Hey guys, welcome back. We have been enjoying a relatively mild fall, but alas, the weather is starting to take a turn for the cooler. And where we live, we deal with typically a lot of snow and some extreme cold temperatures, having been known to reach even negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Typically, just kind of single digits are the norm where we are at the worst part of the winter. And we have been surprised how well our chickens do in the winter, even though we've been keeping them for years. My first winter with chickens, I was pretty nervous, but we pretty much have it down to a science, the things that we need to do when fall starts to cool down and we can tell winter is coming. So today I'm going to walk you through what we do with our chickens to get them ready for winter, what we do with their coop. No extra fluff, just the basics that we have found make a big difference. The first thing that I do when the weather starts to cool down significantly is check the heated waterer and make sure that the system is working properly. Heated waterers are known to be a little bit on the finickier side when it comes to chicken equipment, so definitely wanting to make sure that it's always working as it's supposed to. Unfortunately, tricks like adding a ping pong ball in their water, where we live, it just results in a ping pong ball frozen in ice. Unfortunately, we do need to use electricity to heat their water. There are a few different ways it can be done. I will link this heated waterer and others that we've used in the past. Even though they're not perfect, they are so much better than hauling water to the chickens 7 times a day in the freezing cold. Another system that we have not personally used, but I've heard can be popular, is a heated base with just your standard dog bowl on it, or heated dog water bowls. So those are some more options, but I will link multiple options for you below. Number 2 is, especially during the winter, we make sure we have them on a good quality feed. Our favorite feed to use with our chickens is Scratch and Peck. Scratch and Peck did partner with us on today's video. We are very grateful for the feed that they have provided for our chickens. There are a few benefits to Scratch and Peck feed. While they provide sort of your more typical looking chicken feed in the form of pellets and crumbles, we especially love their mash. I like the mash, especially in the winter, because it is just more visually stimulating for the chickens, provides more interest for them. We find that giving them interesting foods to eat helps keep their mind off of being bored, not having the ability to free range, and off of pestering each other, and just an all-around happier flock. A few notes that make Scratch and Peck unique from other chicken feeds is they actually don't, in their standard feeds, they don't have any corn and they don't have any soy. And of course, they are organic. Winter is an interesting time because a lot of people will feed their chickens corn in order to kind of rev their metabolisms and keep them a little bit warmer. So if that's something you're interested in, Scratch and Peck does offer specific feeds that do have corn, but by having those options, it allows you to tailor your chicken's diet exactly to what you want. We raised this year's batch of chicks on Scratch and Peck feed, and they are healthy and robust, and we may supplement with some corn in the winter. Haven't decided quite yet, but we're going to keep an eye on them. And when the weather's extreme, we always feel better knowing they're getting top quality nutrition. If you're new to Scratch and Peck, here is a discount code that you can use for your first 3 purchases, and I will also link them below for you too. Thank you again to Scratch and Peck for sponsoring today's video. Another thing we like to do is make sure that their run has deep, clean bedding. Lately, we've been using wood chips. We get wood chips for free from our local municipality. So we pile that stuff on. I'm telling you, we have had the least smelly coop and some of the healthiest chickens that we've ever had by using wood chips. So far, have not had any splinters or issues with their feet. But we use the deep litter method both in the run and in the coop. And as an added bonus, it gives us a lot of really beautiful compost that we then use in the spring in our vegetable garden. So throughout the winter, on the days when weather allows, sometimes we'll just bring another bucket of wood chips over, kind of pile that in, and we don't really worry about cleaning it out until the spring. The same goes for the coop. We like to use the deep litter method in the coop. I have over the years migrated away from just the pine shavings, which I don't have a problem with. They're just pretty expensive if that's the only thing that you use. So whenever we have clean bedding, whether it be dry wood chips, when it's in the coop, I like to make sure that everything is nice and dry. I've even used some straw, some dry hay. You do have to be careful with hay and grasses with it becoming anaerobic, getting too compacted. But if you know what you're doing with composting, I haven't really had that issue. But we will also still use the pine shavings to keep things nice and dry in there. Again, we just use the deep litter method and we just keep piling it in over the winter. If we have a nice weather day, sometimes we'll clear it out a little bit, put it in the compost pile. But typically we don't have any issues with the coop bedding as long as we are adding clean bedding throughout the winter. Although it's not something I have to do per se, I do like to check and make sure there's adequate ventilation in the coop. We do not keep an airtight coop during the winter. We like to make sure there is ventilation sort of above where the chickens are roosting to keep the warm, moist air moving out of the coop, and then the chickens can have nice dry air and sort of puff themselves up to make their own little hot pocket. Moist air can cause a lot of issues with respiratory diseases in chickens, so definitely make sure that you have adequate ventilation in your coop, but you ideally want it kind of draft free too. You don't really want the drafts where the chickens are hanging out. Another thing I like to do is just check on each chicken's molting status. Around this time of year, we're usually sort of in the middle or finishing up a molt. This is a normal process. It's where chickens lose a ton of their feathers, and this allows them to grow in new feathers that are sort of pristine and beautiful and do a better job at keeping them warm throughout the winter. Unfortunately for them, sometimes they go through a molt later in the season, and if the weather gets cold, they might not have a ton of feathers at that time. So I just keep an extra eye on those chickens, make sure to throw them maybe some extra treats, make sure they are able to get out of the cold if they want to, out of the wind, that their buddies are letting them snuggle up with them to stay warm at night. So far, I've never had a problem, but I do just like to keep an extra eye out. Now, what about light bulbs? A lot of people will add a light bulb in the coop sort of from just after sunset to just before sunrise, and this is to help the chickens continue laying eggs throughout the winter. Chickens will naturally, as there is less light during the day, chickens will naturally sort of lay less. This isn't something we have done yet. Adding the light can encourage their systems to keep producing eggs and keep laying throughout the winter. Fortunately, we have been able to freeze dry a bunch of the eggs that the chickens lay in excess during the warmer months. Then they're still giving us a smaller amount of fresh eggs throughout the winter. And I like to use the freeze-dried eggs in things like baking and cooking. So far, we have never actually used artificial light in the coop to continue encouraging their systems to lay. But I know that's something a lot of people do. And if that's something that you want to do, you're going to want to make sure that that system is set up about this time of year as well. And what about enclosing their run? There was a point where we used to wrap their run in plastic to kind of create a greenhouse effect and help the chickens have a little bit less cold during the winter. But we're not doing that this year. We haven't done that for a few years, actually. So if that's something you want to do, this would be a good time for that as well. If you're a new chicken keeper and you're entering winter with your chickens, don't be afraid. You might want to keep an eye on the ones with the bigger combs, but overall, there's not too much to be concerned about. I really like to allow my chickens the choice to go inside or out because most of the time they surprise me and prefer to be outside even when it is very cold. Please leave a comment below with your best winter chicken keeping tips and some of the things that have worked best for you and your flock. Thanks for watching today, and we'll see you next time.